beginning of the 2000 film High Fidelity, the actor John Cusack breaks the fourth wall and looks immediately into the camera at us, the film watchers, and asks this question: do I listen to pop music because I am miserable, or am I miserable because I listen to pop music? He says, after all, for years and years, from youth, hundreds and thousands of hours spent listening to heartache and heartbreak, how could it not affect one? So what is the source of my misery? It's a good question. It's a clever question. The disciples ask a similar question when they encounter the man born blind. They say, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Which came first? And that's a question we ask a lot and all the time. It's the classic question. There are many times, of course, when we don't ask the question at all, because we can say, well, this bad thing happened to this person for very obvious reasons. This bad thing happened to me because I was an idiot and I did something foolish. I made poor life choices. That happens all the time, and that's no mystery, and that's no surprise. But there's very often we find in the world things that don't easily find an explanation. We wonder why unpleasant things happen to nice people, and why there is suffering that seems to be completely random and without any redeeming quality or mercy. And that is all completely fair questions. Last week I talked to you a little bit about this subject, about the question of suffering. That in the world, life is suffering. Since the Buddha recognized this a long time ago, it was true before then. As the prophet said, vanity and vexation of spirit. We have suffering in the world. It's part of what it means to be mortal. And even one can imagine those who are immortal might know suffering if we consider those who are fallen, the fallen angels. Our suffering is made more pronounced, though, because of the fact that we need and we try, often fruitlessly, to wrap our head around it. We live in a constant state of questioning and wonder. If you consider how we live our life on a daily life, I heard a number of these words just in the gospel. We never live in the present tense, in perfect, clear life. We always live in potential, or becoming, or imperfection, really. I must do something. I should do something. I will do something. I want to do something. But never I am doing. When Jesus speaks to people, he's very clear. Go, do, wash, be healed. It's very precise and it's very complete. It's perfect. Our suffering is amplified by the fact that we don't live in that space. Our suffering is amplified by the fact that we live in this constant state of feeling incomplete or imperfect. I wish I didn't suffer. I wish I didn't have this pain. I should be able to overcome my difficulties. I can't. I would like to. I must try harder, but I don't. So we always come back to this feeling of suffering and incompletion and imperfection. But what if that is just what it means to be human? Father Roman Bragg, I think I might have mentioned this last week, famously said, just a couple of years, I think, before he passed away, he said, culture, human culture, comes from suffering. Suffering is the source of culture. And that's a really profound statement. Because when you think about it, isn't that exactly what all of our culture is expressing? Is our relationship to the imperfection of our lives. With pop music, very clear, right? All that heartache and all that heartbreak, all those songs of pain and loneliness and rejection. Very few songs last and make it in our head on the basis of complete enjoyment, right? Of everything's fine. You know, we have "Don't Worry, Be Happy," right? That song lives in infamy because of its saccharine sweetness and its complete unbelievability. We can't relate to that. We can relate to the stories and the poems and the songs that speak to the pain in our hearts. Even if you look, what are the biggest money-making movies in the world today? You know what kind of movies they are? They're superhero movies. Our culture has been taken over by the D&D nerds, of which I am one of the originals, I guess. My generation are writing movies, the kind of movies that we wanted to watch when we were kids. Movies about superheroes. Movies about incredible, fantastic beings and places. And as wonderful and exciting as those things are, they clearly betray the anxiety at the heart of our existence. Because why do we need superheroes? Why do we need people who are bulletproof? Why do we need people who can regenerate their wounds? Because we are weak. Because we are vulnerable. Because we are afraid. Because we are not Ubermensch. We are not ex-men and women. We are weak. We are scared. Because life is filled with suffering. And even if we don't want to think about it, it's always around the corner. Our culture is our constant reflection of what it means to be immortal and how we're dealing with it. Into this reality, the Lord comes. Into this chaos, the light of the world is revealed. And he doesn't come in and say, guess what? I'm going to take away all your suffering. I'm going to make everything easy and pleasant. He said, no. I'm going to get you to the place where your suffering will no longer endure, but your suffering will become the path to freedom from it. Your suffering is an integral part of what it means for you to be a human being. And without your suffering, you will not know what it means to be a child of God. Because I suffer with you. I suffer for you. I suffer in you. Instead of fearing our suffering and rejecting it and wanting to imagine it away, let us, maybe we don't want to say embrace our suffering, because we're not masochists, but let us hold it at least by the hand. Let us not be afraid to call it our erstwhile friend, and in the end, our most important ally. Because it is through the cross that each of us may bear that we actually learn what it means to love and to sacrifice, to give, to forgive. It's through our individual crosses, no matter how they are shaped, And I won't say how heavy or light because I think they are all equally heavy. But they all are shaped differently. Through those crosses, we will find our way to a paradise. And not a saccharine, sweet, unbelievable paradise, but a paradise in which it has been seasoned and matured, and it is filled with souls who have gone through a crucible, who understand what the price really was, who understand what life was really meant to be about. And therefore, even though they no longer suffer, no longer have sorrow, the joy that they have is only made possible because they did, because they have gone through that. We need the darkness first to find that light. Otherwise, everything's monotone, monochromatic. This is how Jesus comes to us, through the cross. Sorry, on behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ, the Orthodox faith, I'm sorry. I wish it was easier. I wish we didn't have that. It should be easy. It must be better. It could be, but it's not. Go and wash. Believe. Accept your cross. Walk with it. Take it by the hand. And be at peace with it. And you will find such joy and such light and such redemption that you will not question it again. You will say, it is what it is, and I'm glad that it was. Christ is risen.